Now I want to introduce one of California's foremost trailblazers responsible for making the Golden State a global leader on climate and clean energy, and soon also a leader in floating offshore wind. It is my honor to invite to our summit stage the chair of California's Energy Commission, David Hochschild. In 2019, he was appointed to the California Energy Commission by Governor Gavin Newsom. He fills the environmental position on a 5-member commission where 4 of the 5 members are required by law to have professional training in specific areas: engineering or physical science, environmental protection, economics, and law. His career has spanned public service, environmental advocacy, and the private sector. He first got involved in the solar energy field in 2001 in San Francisco as a special assistant to Mayor Willie Brown, where he launched a citywide $100 million initiative to put solar panels on public buildings. He also co-founded the Vote Solar Initiative, a 60,000-member advocacy organization promoting solar policies at the local, state, and federal levels. For his work to advance clean energy, he was awarded the Sierra Club's Trailblazer Award, the American Lung Association's Clean Air Hero Award, and the U.S. Department of Energy's Million Solar Roof True Champion Award. Please give me, again, a warm welcome to the chair of the California Energy Commission, David Hochschild.
Well, thank you for that generous eulogy, and good to be with everybody this morning. Pretty impressive for the turnout after a Pearl Jam concert. You guys are hardcore here to talk offshore wind at 8 in the morning. So I want to give a little bit of some context about what's happening here in our state of California and clean energy and sort of where offshore wind fits in. As you know, we're all in on building 100% clean energy future. And it is worth noting this spring something really remarkable is happening in our state. For 57 out of the last 65 days, we've hit 100% clean energy on the grid for some period of time, and that is growing every year. And so we're well on the way. So I want to kind of provide a little bit of an overview and just begin with this. The Chinese word for crisis is weiji, and it's just 2 other words put together, danger and opportunity. And it's important to remember that inside every crisis there is opportunity, and that is true of the climate crisis as well, because we have a chance now to build something beautiful and powerful and lasting. And I think this conference is really representative of that and the new jobs that can be created within this. So clean energy is going to be the backbone of our climate strategy and our economic future. And today in California, we're now at 61% clean energy on the grid. And I want to just pause on that because it is worth noting, alternative energy is the wrong word to use to describe renewables today. Fossil's alternative, and we expect within the next year or so to hit 2/3 of our power in the grid coming from clean sources. So incredible momentum. The governor signed legislation a year or so ago that accelerates our pace, so we're now mandated to get to 90% clean energy by 2035 and 100% by 2045. Meanwhile, nationally, a lot of these technologies that were born here, so California is the birthplace, first utility scale solar project, first utility scale wind project, first rooftop solar systems, first energy storage, first energy efficiency codes and standards, but now propagated. And one of the things that's happening, as you know, in renewables is that we're winning on price. And so across the country, this year in 2024, 95% of new capacity additions are coming from clean energy, and almost 99% of the retirements are fossil. So the grid is getting cleaner across the country. So let's do a little aerial tour of some of the places we're getting our clean energy here in California. I love this quote: "The people who say it can't be done should get out of the way of people who are doing it." California was the home to the world's largest thin film solar PV project, Desert Sunlight. We have just about an hour away from us here the world's largest geothermal power plant, the Geysers, the world's largest solar rooftop. That's Apple's headquarters. And then we just hit a huge milestone this spring, getting to 10,000 megawatts of energy storage. I want to highlight this because this is a totally new thing, right? Stationary energy storage was not an industry until just a few years ago, and we built 10 gigs in 5 years. That's more than 4 Diablo Canyon nuclear power plants, and we're just getting started. And what's really exciting when you look ahead, the next tranche of this storage deployment is going to come in at about half the cost. Of driving the price down. And 10,000 megawatts plus another 12,500 megawatts of renewables, that is 22.5 gigawatts that has been added to the grid just since Gavin Newsom became governor. So it's really the greatest deployment in California history. So coming on fast, and it's cleaning up our grid. As I mentioned, the role of storage complementing solar particularly is really helping us not use gas in the late afternoon hours. These are what some of these projects, this is now the world's largest battery storage project just come online. So one of the things that's happening with wind as well in California is we're doing a lot of repowers, taking these older turbines that had very, very high RPM, 45 RPM, and they're being repowered and replaced by much larger turbines, and we're getting great results from that. So this one project called Vasco had 432 of the old turbines replaced with just 34 of the new turbines, and they tripled the energy production and reduced avian mortality 70%. So I think we're seeing like a lower impact of renewables as we modernize. Using all that electricity is amazing because we're seeing things that people didn't even dream possible. I visited last week the Pepsi facility here in our state that's now using Tesla electric semi-trucks. So there's 100 of these operating in California today. Pepsi told us that the longest range they've seen on a single charge, fully loaded semi-truck is 545 miles. So that's operating in California today, and Tesla's going to be making, I think, about 50,000 of these a year starting in 2026. And then larger and larger charging stations. This one has 98 stalls. We just hit 105,000 chargers in California. And one of the things that's happening as well is, this is another electric truck. We're seeing chargers get deployed with energy storage inside the charger. So these facilities, this is down in Gilroy, had 160 kilowatt hour batteries built into the charger, so you don't have to do a distribution system upgrade to make the charging possible. This is all flowing from the governor's executive order this is kind of, early to my earlier point, in the middle of the worst wildfire smoke we've ever had in 2020, the governor signed this incredibly bold executive order mandating we're going to get to 100% zero-emission vehicles by 2035. And people mocked that. We were at 8% new vehicle sales being electric at this time. We're now at 25%, and we're the first state in the country where the best-selling vehicle is electric. So incredible momentum happening in this space. And one of the things that is a real pleasure, in my role, we're very close to the R&D space. We fund about $1.5 billion over 10 years on clean energy R&D, and we fund a lot around batteries. And the next generation of battery technology that's coming is incredibly exciting. This is better energy density, lower cost, better durability, better safety, and it really, the envelope of possibility for what can happen, what can be electrified is expanding rapidly. So keep your eyes on that space. We did hit peak gasoline consumption in 2019, and it's now going down. It went way down with COVID, came up a little bit, but now it's going down every year as we're getting about 1,200 electric vehicles a day coming into California, being added to the roads. And we project electric vehicle sales passing internal combustion engine sales in the next couple years. Driven as well by price reductions that are happening now in the market. So lithium ion fell about 14% last year. Going further upstream, we're actually leaning in, I would say, two of our most exciting clean energy infrastructure projects, offshore wind, and then this vision we're calling Lithium Valley. We have, as you know, most of the lithium in the world, if you think about it, sort of the oil of the clean energy future, it comes from just 4 countries. So it's Chile and Argentina, evaporation ponds, and Australia and China, hard rock mining. We have a lithium resource in California that can supply enough lithium for 375 million electric vehicles, and it is by far the cleanest and greenest way to get lithium because it's in a geothermal brine. So to produce 20,000 tons of lithium, if you do it from evaporation ponds, you impact 30,000 acres. If you do it from hard rock mining, 3,000 acres. If you do it from salt and sea geothermal, 30 acres. So a very small footprint, and it's all powered 100% with clean geothermal energy. So there's about $15 billion or so of private capital lined up to deploy that now. We're also seeing a ton of other creative innovation. This is a great company called Beam that has a tracking solar and storage that you can just put in a parking spot, and you don't need to trench and you don't need to permit. And so meeting the needs, even when there's not electricity, EV charging is getting easier and easier to do. And we're seeing as well some exciting innovation around vehicle to grid. So one of the things we've been supporting are a bunch of vehicle to grid innovations. And this is a school district, the Cajon School District outside of San Diego, that have these electric school buses, and when they're done with their drop-offs, they go and plug back in and they feed power back to the grid when it needs it. And so during the power crisis a few years ago in September, they were charged up and feeding power back to the grid. The 25 gigs of offshore wind is a landmark goal. We're all in on building this and making this happen, bring it to fruition, and doing it the right way. And I really want to stress that means a very inclusive process. It means a lot of dialogue, and it means really trying to do it in a way that's going to support and uplift the communities proximate to the deployment of this resource. And we really see offshore wind playing a fundamental role, not just in our climate strategy, but in our economic future as well. And so we're going to be adopting, if all goes well, the California Strategic Plan for offshore wind at our commission meeting next month. That's our final report of this. So you guys are all pretty familiar with this, but we're doing floating technology, and we're siting it, as you know, 20 miles offshore. We've been engaging a lot with the rest of the world community around offshore wind. This was the Crown Prince of Norway who came through town. This is maybe 2 weeks ago. We've been signing MOUs with places like Denmark and Norway and others. And I just returned from China, where they've installed now half the world's offshore wind capacity. So a lot of international engagement for us as well. And we just joined the Global Offshore Wind Alliance at the COP in Dubai last year. So I want to point out that one of the critiques that we've gotten since, I would say, the last 15 years, when we really started going all in on building a clean energy future, we heard this again and again and again. It was the same refrain, which is, it's going to be a disaster for your economy. And we heard that from other governors in other parts of the country, from people throwing stones. But it is important to note, well, what has happened with our economy? And if you go back to 2012, we were the 10th largest economy in the world. And we passed Russia and Italy and Brazil and France and the United Kingdom. And we're now the 5th largest economy in the world. And I think that's a really important point to note. Clean energy has been good for our state, good for our economy. We get the majority of US clean tech venture capital coming into California. We have an incredible set of talent here around innovation because of these policies. And so it's helped us, I think, sustain that edge, and it's unequivocally a positive thing. And that's why the governor and the legislature are committed to it. And offshore wind is an important part of that ecosystem. So let's see if this will let me advance. So our largest, actually the largest car manufacturing operation of any sort in North America is the Tesla factory here in Fremont, making about 2,000 electric cars a day. We hit last spring 1.5 million zero-emission vehicles in California. We expect to hit next month 2 million, so that's ramping up as well. And I love this picture from 1900 Fifth Avenue, the Thanksgiving Day Parade, all horse and buggies in one car, and then 13 years later, all cars in one horse and buggy. And so just as a market transformation note to remember that things that seem fantastical can become conventional wisdom in pretty short order. Some other exciting things we're doing, we're requiring solar through our energy code that the California Energy Commission has adopted on all new homes, all new buildings, all new schools, all new commercial buildings. We're building about 100,000 new buildings a year in California. And then the electrification of everything. It's not just vehicles, but also buildings. So this summer, we're going to be voting to adopt, if all goes well, the first building code in the United States that's mandating a dual heat pump system. So heat pumps for water heating and for space heating, and driving towards all electric new construction. And then the first all-electric crane deployed in San Diego there, and the very first electric tugboat in the world also deployed in Southern California. And then this summer, in July, California is doing the very first procurement of electric ferries. We're going to be buying 5 ferries here in the San Francisco Bay, and we're deploying the charging infrastructure for that. I was with my chief of staff, Kat Robinson, in Norway for an offshore wind event last year. We had a chance to ride the electric ferries in Norway. It's a full commercial ferry. It takes 7 minutes to disembark the passengers and the next group to get on. The ferry charges completely in this time and then goes out for 2 hours. And it's, we all are focused on climate and air pollution, but the reduction in noise pollution is really something you notice. And this is coming. And better battery technology that I was talking about is facilitating this. So some really exciting developments there. And then this year, by the end of the year, we'll complete the electrification of the Caltrain line that connects San Francisco to Silicon Valley. So some great momentum around all this. So let me close with this story. I really think the analogy for what we're all doing in clean energy and climate is very apt for smoking in the United States and the story of smoking. So both my grandfathers were in World War II, and every American soldier in the war got 3 things. You got food, chocolate, and a pack of cigarettes every day. And so a whole generation of American men came back from the war as smokers, and it was a mainstream thing. And doctors did ads for cigarettes. Johnny Carson smoked on The Tonight Show. Fred Flintstone smoked. President Kennedy smoked. Marilyn Monroe smoked. Some people say they smoked together. Some of you guys get that? And smoking was totally mainstream. And then the science came out, hey, smoking causes cancer, and secondhand smoke causes cancer. And so the response of the tobacco industry was to go from making 1 product, cigarettes, to 2 products. They made cigarettes and they manufactured doubt. They put $100 million of junk science out there to dispute that basic truth that smoking causes cancer. But what happened next is very instructive, which is the truth got out, and health warnings on packages and cigarette taxes and banning sales to minors. And now we're at 9%. So we went from basically half the country smoking down to 9%. And I think that can be the story that we write together with fossil fuels and driving towards a clean energy future. So I'll stop there. Thank you all so much.
It's not gonna stay.